Welcome to this emergency episode of The Runout. Brandon and I keep talking about how we're going to be taking some time off, and then we just don't. We just keep putting out podcasts.
Too much to talk about.
Entirely too much to talk about. Today's episode, we do have Dawson J. Nielsen, who is kind of been the guy breaking all of the headlines and stuff from the NLL CBA, joining us. We will jump into that in just a minute. But Brandon, how you been enjoying your time off? You actually had a week off, and then now here we are.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when the last time we recorded and what kind of happened. I had a week off from shooting, which is really weird this time of year, but yeah, it was fine. So I shot. Did I shoot Air Force? I shot an Air Force game at some point in there. I know that.
I think you shot right after the last time we recorded. Yes. That first weekend you shot.
Yeah. They played Hawaii.
It was last That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So, always fun being down there. And then just kind of the normal stuff. Got confirmation I'm back at Colorado State this week. Go Rams.
Nice.
So that's going to be sweet.
Go Rams.
Hey, got to shout out the alma mater. You know what I mean? It's the best.
See, look at us learning things. I didn't know you went to Colorado State.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I try to. Last year I made it up to 2 games. This year so far, this will be my only game probably. But you know, I they had so much hope last year, and then this has just kind of not been the best this year, which sucks. But you know what? It's fun to be back. Hopefully the students show out and it's not too cold. But yeah, just living life.
Then you had the big Broncos win.
Oh yeah. That was, I didn't expect it. I said going into the week we're gonna lose. Like I was like, it's just I'm not a fair weather guy. I'm realistic. Like it's but the fourth quarter was just, if we could just take that and do it for like the whole game.
The whole game, yeah.
We're great. That said, some of the people on Twitter that are calling us Super Bowl contenders, let's pump the brakes, please. All right, I don't need that stuff in my mentions or anywhere else. Like let's calm down. All right, and for those certain Philly fans, I won't name names.
Those certain
that are out there crying about a pass interference call. Let's worry about your boy number 7 out there that can't play defense without touching a dude's face mask or pulling a jersey into his own teammate that the refs somehow give you guys a pick call. All right, so I can go on and on pulling screenshots of the penalties that guy commits, but nonetheless, Bo Nix, that guy, put some respect on his name. That's all I got to say.
The people have tuned into this podcast and stepped into the middle of something they were not even prepared for.
Hey, if they saw my Twitter feed, all my posts this weekend, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's that time of year where I'm just, there's no lacrosse being played. I got to tweet about football.
A couple weeks ago, at this point, it's probably been a couple months ago. It feels like it was yesterday, but then I think back, I'm like, man, that was like week 6 of the PLL season. So that was like 2 or 3 months ago at this point. We talked about the Redwoods being a hockey team because they only play three quarters. What are we calling the opposite of that? When you only play the fourth quarter, what is that? Because both your team and the Panthers did that this week. They only played the fourth quarter.
I don't know, because most of the time the Broncos play a half, which has been my gripe with the team for the last year and a half now. Of like, we'll play a really good first half and it'll be like, wow, they're coming out strong, and then all of a sudden they get super conservative in the second half and they lose, or vice versa, where it's like, what are we doing? Like this game. Except this time it took till the fourth. And the second half, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we can just play football. So I don't really know what happened this weekend. I don't know what you'd call it. I don't. I'll have to think about that one. Like, it was easier when the Redwoods were doing it to think of it. Man.
You need that hate in your heart. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I don't hate the Redwoods. All right. I just know that it was easy to be like, hey, this is what you guys do every single week. I just called it like I saw it, no disrespect meant. That's what they were doing at the time.
That is, definitely what they were doing for sure.
Yeah. No comment. I know certain people listen to this podcast, or at least follow it, so no comment.
Who listens to us? Who's one of the 25? I want to know.
I thought you showed me Joe Spallina was following at one point.
You're right. I forgot that Joe. Hey.
Whether or not he listens, I don't know. I hope he does.
That's fair,
I'm a fan of Joe, so that'd be cool. But I don't want to say anything that's going to incriminate myself.
Yeah, we are very big Redwoods fans.
They're the best. Don't look up here. There's nothing here to look at.
Right. This is the B is
Redwoods
actually
green.
California. It's the Bears.
Yeah.
And this team doesn't exist anymore, so we're fine here.
It's fine.
All right. With that all being said, let's move into our interview with Dawson J. Nielsen about the NLL CBA. All right, we are here with Dawson J. Nielsen on Twitter, as he has become known. Dawson, for anyone that's listening that doesn't know who you are and maybe why you're here, can you give us a little bit of a introduction to who you are and how you ended up kind of being the source of all of the information on this?
Yeah, I was kind of like curious with the NLL CBA, and then I just started connecting with guys within the league and guys who I know around the league, players, and started with that. And then it started going into the board of governors when they kind of saw me posting just one side, and they kind of wanted both sides out there. So they started connecting with me and kind of like tweeting out of what's actually going on with the CBA. I kind of said to them, every story is not a bad story. Every story sheds a light of what's actually occurring. And of course, this story is one of the main topics of lacrosse community right now. How I got here is kind of unique. I played lacrosse my whole life since I was 5 years old. So I've played with guys like Josh Shawada and everyone, in and around the community of RML. So I'm just starting to use my resources available to, hype in lacrosse and bring it up.
That's awesome. That was part of my thinking was when you first started showing up on my Twitter feed. For a second, I was like, this isn't real, because I was like, I've never even heard of this guy. Like, where did he come from? So it's interesting to hear like your own kind of backstory. Like I legitimately thought like, oh, this isn't real. When you posted the actual like letters from the NLLPA and the board of governors, I was like, is this real? By that point, though, I think you had kind of been established as like, okay, this dude is legit. He knows what he's talking about. But there was still an element of like, how is he getting all of this stuff? Like, nobody knows. So that's good to know. And funny that you mentioned Josh Zawada. Again, we've mostly done field, so I know you're mainly in the box, so you probably haven't listened much. But Josh Zawada is a recurring character on this show because I'm a diehard Duke guy. So,
100%. That's why I
and then of course Brandon is a
100%. That's why I brought him up, because I know you guys are PLL fans. I know that you guys are Duke fans. And just to make the record straight, Josh Zawada did not leak the information from me. So if anyone asks, it came from Josh Zawada, no, I brought it up because I know that you guys are Duke fans, and I can swear that it came up just because of that. Because I knew you guys were PLL fans, I knew you guys are Duke fans, so his name just rings a bell when I'm talking to guys who cover the PLL and college lacrosse as much as you guys do.
But before we get too much into the NLL CBA, which we'll get to in a minute, I see the hat, I see the Salmon Bellies hat.
Yes.
Do we need to take a moment of silence for your guys?
You know what, man? As much as people like, I posted a lot about the bellies and a lot about, Mann Cup and the Six Nations. Hey, man, I went there. It was in Queen's Park. If it probably was out in Six Nations, I would have probably brought their gear too. I do have a jersey of Six Nations. I do have that. I bought both. Being a Western guy, I kind of have to cheer about the WLA. It's like, cheering for the East Coast teams versus the West Coast teams. You're a Duke guy. I'm more of a Denver kind of guy. Other than when Joshua...
Hey, I like that.
No, and Brandon and I talked. I think everyone expected Six Nations to just like roll right through. So we were really impressed with the fact that at some point you probably look at it and you're like, man, we had the lead, like we should have probably seen it out. But I think if you going into it, if you're like, hey man, they're gonna win 3 games, right? They pushed it to a game 7, right? So they're gonna win 3 games and push it all the way. Like I think you'd feel pretty good about that heading into it.
Yeah, the Queen's Park Arena, how I explained it to people who have never been there, it's like playing, the Super Bowl with a host team playing in it. That's how much of effect it has on the game. Games 1 and 2, I think you could have saw that, New West would have won those 2 games right off the hop. Six Nations kind of said, you hear a podcast around about guys are talking about, it's going to be hard games 1 and 2, figuring out the floor, figuring out the atmosphere. It was both sides' atmosphere, bringing the heat. But there's nothing like playing in Queen's Park Arena.
I don't know how I was watching it and I was like, I don't know how you guys are playing on this like parquet floor. Like I imagine hitting that thing and just being like, that sounds so painful.
Slipping on sweat the entire game.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the grippiest floors that are in Canada, to be honest with you, without being turf. I've heard from people that said that, playing on concrete is actually worse than playing on, they call it a wood floor, but it's not really a wood floor. It has a film over top, and it's kind of more like, it's more set in pieces of blocks putting together. That's how they kind of build the floor. So it's not really a wood floor anymore. The wood floor is kind of hanging off the wall now. It does a little bit different. Yes, would everyone love it to be turf? I agree. But being said that, how many turf arenas are actually playing in Canada right now? There's not a lot. And bring it back to Alberta, where I'm from, the minor association, Junior A, wanted to have turf in their building this year, and that kind of got pulled out from the government. Said, no, you can't have it because we need to do lights, we need to do upgrades. So more if we look at it, more lacrosse is being played in Canada on concrete and on floors like that.
Okay. This is totally random. How much field are you guys especially where you are out in Alberta? Is there much of any field being played, or is it all box all the time?
No, there's field being played. Right off the box season, guys go into playing into the field season, so they'll be like provincial level. We do have programs like North Strong Lacrosse, who's run by Paul Rye. There's also Elevate 8, that's kind of run by the Snyder brothers. There's NSA down in Calgary, it's a school. Eric Turner started up a school in Spruce Grove. So there is more field coming together. But it's not as big as box lacrosse where I am from. But if you go over into, BC, Ontario, those places, they're going to have way more field than what we have, just because of our winter months. It kind of gets real ugly here real fast. I mean, in a week or so, we're going to be seeing, we could see about a foot of snow in just a matter of time. But being said that, like, to give you guys a guy that just committed, Cash Friday was just committed to University of Delaware. He's from Calgary.
I can't even.
Our connection is bugging right now.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble with the connection, but yeah, no,
The dual country. First time trying this.
the Wi-Fi doesn't cross borders either.
Nope. It just
and the Wi-Fi
stops right there.
Well, hopefully he'll jump back in. I definitely heard him talking about the weather, and I was gonna ask. I don't know what it's like up there in Denver. It has been 80 degrees this week here.
Yeah, actually,
like, what is happening?
The last couple of days for us, it's been pretty chilly, but up until this weekend, it was nice. But yeah, it's been like gloomy, like poured rain all day on. I guess it was yesterday and Sunday, I think. So
yeah,
but can't complain. I mean, it's
I think that's the weather that's coming this way.
Probably, yeah. No snow yet, which I was surprised about. But I saw Wyoming got like crazy hail on Saturday that looked like snow. Like they were playing a football game on what I thought was snow, and then later found out that it was just a bunch of hail all over.
Oh,
so
that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it personally, but
no, not at all. Not at all. I guess we can sort of start getting into the NLL CBA, and I guess Dawson will jump back in. I don't know. You're the NLL guy. I'll let you. Where do you want to start on this?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't really know where to start because we've been kind of getting info for a while, and then it bounced back and forth, and now we're getting a lot of really good info. What I'll say is, it sounds like there's going to be a deal this weekend. At the latest by Tuesday. It sounds like they're kind of in the middle of hammering out like the finer details. But it sounds like they're basically done. There's some things as far as specifics with the CBA that once Dawson jumps back on, I'll let him kind of explain. But there's a lot of good things.
Jumping in right now.
Yeah, there's some good things that I think are gonna.
There he is.
Hey, sorry, boys. My internet failed. I don't know what's going on, but we'll go off the phone.
They're good. This is our first time trying on a cross-country guest. Two country guests, so it's fun.
They don't like the 51st state being a part of this.
No, they don't.
Jokes aside to everyone. Jokes to the side.
But we literally just started talking about the NLL CBA, so perfect time for you to jump back in. Let's start with kind of how we got here, kind of at this point where it's October 7th and we have no CBA and no one knows. Well, it sounds like it might be getting done, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, so it's been a long process, from what I can gather is there hasn't been really much communication from when Bandits hosted the Cup. There hasn't been much communication. There's been a bit of a break in between of guys actually communicating between the NLPA side to the PRC, which what the PRC is public relations, communications to the players. They kind of communicate to the players. They're like board of governors, ties to the team that communicate with the NLPA, who then, go and talk to the board of governors and see how much more they can offer. It's gotten to a sticky point where, I'm telling you, the season was about to be canceled. It was that close. It was to a point where nothing was going to get done. There was too much hot water. Before leaking out the information, it was ugly. It was to the point where guys were wondering if we were going to have jobs. From what I can tell from some of the players that have told me before, if you don't have a second job and you need a second job, like your NL contract and how much you get paid for them, I suggest getting a second job. That was kind of what the NLPA was setting to players. That is massive. So with that being said, it got to a point where like, hey, like we need to get a deal done. There was players within the league who were pissed off with the NLPA, said that, hey, we need to get something done. That's what the rumors are saying. I can say there is some definitely. All 90% might be a reach. But being said that, we are coming to a really, as I tweeted kind of today, that we're coming to a really positive moment. In the last 4 days, there's been a significant amount of progress. From what I can gather from people telling me, there's about 30 things going on the list. Keep in mind, in the 30 list of things, there's about 6 of them already completed, and 6 of them, I would say, a majority have the weight of the rest of them.
Okay. So based on, kind of what you were tweeting earlier and kind of what you're saying now, you're expecting a deal to be done imminently, certainly probably by the weekend, something like that. And does that mean probably nothing's really canceled? No, not even week 1 or anything?
Nothing is canceled at the moment. So as when we've seen in the letter that, got leaked out, that I leaked out, it had dates on them. In those dates, they weren't really truthful. It's kind of pushing a deadline of saying, hey, we need to get this done. We need to get this done. What's now being said, like, hey, like, if we're next Friday, we will see stuff getting canceled. Arena dates need to be filled. Those need to be saying, yeah, we're using them. Visas, training camps, minimum of 2 to 3 weeks for training camps that have to be done. So we are getting to that point where, yes, it needs to be done immediately, but there is still given time.
What do you think?
I know.
Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
I was just going to say, I know there was like some talk about teams being willing to cancel training camp. Are we at a point where that's going to start happening, or they're going to condense it, or are teams just going to flat out just say, hey, we don't need a training camp, let's just play games?
No, they will have a training camp. I don't think any teams are willing to cancel training camp. There's too many guys who are not signed, too many guys who, weren't in the draft. For instance, I'll bring up a guy, a real close friend of mine. I'll plug him, Ethan Forgrave. Absolutely lit it up in Senior B this year. Lit it up. Lit it up in the Montana Lacrosse League this past weekend. This guy needs to be on a trial, needs to get to a camp, needs to prove that he can play with the best. He came off a significant amount of an injury with tearing his ACL. He got back from that. He needs to get a look. There's other guys like that teams are interested in. And, we can't have an NL season. It would put an asterisk on an NL season if we can't have a training camp. Just being said, like, if the minute you get drafted to a team doesn't mean like those top 1, 2, and 3 rounds are going to be playing on a team. Those guys, they still got to play. There's been a number of guys who've, got drafted pretty highly and sat on a practice roster just because their attitude sucked.
Yeah. Go ahead. That was my biggest question.
That was the one question you had for Dawson.
Well, I mean, as far as speaking about dates getting canceled, that's one of those things that's like, that would, in my mind, that would be the first thing. But obviously, I recognize that like these are pro athletes. You kind of need that training and ramp up time, especially for guys that wrapped up their senior A, B seasons, PLL season. Like, that'd be tough to be like, hey, week 1, sorry boys, we're all playing games. So.
Yeah, I mean, the number 1 pick hasn't played since last summer, or maybe even longer ago than that. I don't know the last time he played.
He played. So last training camp was 2021. He was at the Edmonton. He was at the Saskatchewan Rush when he got drafted, and then I believe it was 2022. And then he played. I believe this was either this year or last year was his first coming back. So he's played 2 seasons so far on his now new knee, I would say. I mean, an ACL, that's an injury, can kill people with their careers.
Sorry, I have this like terrible cough, and that was like the worst time ever for me to it's killing me. At least I don't sound as bad as I did last week. But So it looks like we're getting a deal hopefully done across the line officially. What do you think are kind of the last few things that we're going to be hammering out, right up until a deal is like really signed? What are some of the things we're stuck on?
The cap. The cap is one of the biggest things. So players kind of want it. It's at 800K right now. Players want it to grow in years 3 and 4. I'll say this. If this was a 1 to 3 year deal of the CBA, it would immediately be signed right now, pen on paper. We wouldn't be talking right now. But because it's a 5-year CBA deal, years 4 and 5 are the ones where the NLPA wants more of. That's where, their guys are pushing or holding off. Like, hey, we need a little bit more here. We need a little bit more there. As well as, like, you got to look into the 2028 Olympics. As much people don't put much of a weight on that itself, that is a lot of weight for these two leagues. And that's including the PLL and NL. That is so much weight for lacrosse to boom that players are going to want a piece of it. But being said of it, I know it's a kind of a lame argument. Owners are wanting to have that 2-year boom in order to be on the green side for the first time. Some of these teams are losing money. I can tell you the only team that really is making money right now is the Buffalo Bandits. They're making $3 million per year. There's $11 million coming in, and there's only about $14 million coming back out. So you're looking at a $3 million profit.
And that's that. I know we saw in the letter that it was 85% are not making money at all. That number seems to hold up in your mind, because I know a lot of people were like, "There's no way that number's legit," but you think that is a legit number?
It's a legit number. Like it's a legit number. If you want to scratch the pen and paper and say, this team's making this much, I'm telling you, when you're only making, I would say maybe 100,000, you're not really making profit. You're just scratching by. The amount of work you have to do to run an NLL team is like, these owners are not going to be wanting to put that effort just to make $100,000. It's like you think of like the Puglas, Joe SII, $3 million is like one of us getting transferred $1,000 into our bank account.
Yeah.
True.
Outside of this specific CBA, what do you see as being kind of a longer term answer? Obviously, we hope it makes it to the NHL or in NFL or that kind of a level. But what's kind of a more realistic longer term answer for us? Is the league too big? Do we need to contract a few more teams? Do we need to do that? Like, what's the longer term answer?
The longer term answer, and I'll tell you, it's being discussed right at the table right now, is more games. So in the current old CBA, not a lot of people know about this, but in the old CBA, the NL could schedule up to 24 games. Now there's being discussed to go up to 30 games. That means more revenue, more games, more time that we're in people's eyes. With having an 18-game schedule like the NFL, we'll never get to that point. If we have a 30-game schedule, have more games, more people be more interested because of, the growth of the game is, we can't put a number on it. And growing the game, that means growing the games of, being on television, actually getting a television deal. I'll tell you right now, there's about $500,000 per Canadian team that are paying for the TSN deal. That's not a TV deal. That's a deal that's hurting teams. $1.5 million in flights and hotels are being paid for guys to fly in and fly out per game. Like, that's per season. You're looking at like upwards of $2.75 million before any players hit the field, before anything has happened. That's including a $750K in league fees.
So that means even with Buffalo's profit, even if that was shared, like, that's barely even enough, even if it is enough to cover any of the baseline expenses. And the fact that they're still just paying to have games broadcasted is just like, it's kind of wild that there's not an actual deal between both sides. And I know Jamie Dalwick talked about that on the pod, but I'm just like, something's got to give.
It's 100% true. As much people want to, deem Dalwick of like, hey, like he's not telling us the truth. He is telling you the truth. That's how much it actually cost. Like the other thing, like, as you said, Buffalo Bandits, their portion of shedding off because they're in luxury tax. It's like going to the dollar store for us, for some of these owners. We can't speak about it because it doesn't make sense to us as normal people who have normal jobs. These guys who own are putting in it to build a team, and Dalwick has put in tons and tons of money. I will give him credit. Can he get hot from 1 to 0 on 100? 100%. But being said that, like, you have to look at a greater scheme of, again, I'll go back. Move the games from 18, move it to 30. It's a no-brainer. More games, more revenue. Like, you guys are from America. So do you think ESPN Plus and ESPNU are good for the league, being on those two platforms?
Nope. I've argued against ESPN Plus for quite a while now. It's great as a platform if you already have it. But when you're trying to grow something and you're saying, hey, we want people to stumble upon it, ESPN Plus is not really the best option, if we're being honest. It might be the most affordable, but it's not the best option.
100%. And ESPNU has the worst metrics of all platforms across the entire Sportsnet network. So being on that is like, hey, it's kind of like a high five going down the street. It's not something, hey, we're doing this for you. It's just saying, we appreciate your money. Thank you. And here's the game on ESPNU.
So then,
right,
obviously, you said in the last CBA, they were talking about, 24 games, but they still only played 18. So in this CBA, even if they put 30, does that mean then we're realistically playing 24? Or does that mean they actually want to play a full 30?
I think they really, really are looking at playing 30 games. One of Brett Fruit's things that I'll prop him up through is actually getting this to 30 games. This is kind of like his idea. I'll put this on his idea. 2 years ago, I know the NLL coming to Edmonton, where I'm from, is one of a big deal around the NLL right now. So 2 years ago, when Brett Fruit met with the Oilers Entertainment Group, who are going to purchase a team in the next couple years, there's 3 asks for them. One ask was a 30-game season for weekday availability, as well as players to live in market. If he can meet one or those 2 asks, with, you see more players living in market now, you'll see more teams gather to, a 30-game season than having an 18-game season. How I explain to like having an 18-game season is like a concert rolling in 18 times throughout the year, without concert numbers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like that's where like I honestly believe that's where they're trying to get to, is 30 games a season. Yeah, it's going to be taxing for a lot of guys, of course. But being NFL fans of you guys are, and I am, there's so many bye weeks. Why is there so many bye weeks? Like, cut the bye weeks out. You're not playing that much. Like, week 4, okay, we start seeing injuries. Give them a bye week. Week 5, they should be ready to go again. So does a 30-game schedule make sense? And, go back to your last podcast. Could the NLL move to the summer? I think it's 100% in the works. Brett Fruit, one of his comments lately, has been looking at in the summer. Why? We don't got to deal with NHL teams being in there. We got to deal with, us just being in there. A 30-game season helps guys be able to make more money, play more games. More revenue equals more players getting paid.
Yeah, no, I like that. And, you're talking about moving it to the summer and playing more games. I think of, we talked about the NFL just a minute ago. I grew up, there was a guy not in my neighborhood, he was in a friend's neighborhood, Ricky Prohl, who, not that famous anyway, wide receiver, played for the Rams, played for the Panthers, played for several teams. And he lived in Greensboro in North Carolina, where I'm from. That's where he lived like year round. but for the 6 months when when the Rams were like in thing, he had an apartment in Seattle or in St. Louis, because they were in St. Louis at the time. He had an apartment, and he basically just moved to St. Louis for that like 6 months or whatever. And, you know, if you're playing weekday games and stuff, that becomes a possibility. Obviously it doesn't work for everybody, and it depends on case by case. But if you're one of those guys that plays maybe the PLL and NLL, you know, that could be a possibility for you, something along those lines, you know. But two houses when you're making, you know, maybe six figures versus, you know, millions is maybe a little bit different, but, you know, it's still something that could realistically happen as an alternative to necessarily, you know, if I'm from North Carolina and Edmonton drafts my rights, moving to Edmonton is going to be a little bit of a wake up call for me. So, you know, if I could mitigate that by living there for 4 or 5 months, and then, you know, whatever, that could be something that happens. So I don't know, just a thought I had while you were talking about that.
No, you're 100%. I think, you know, a lot of the historians of lacrosse won't like it, like the Salmon Bellies guys, the Six Nation Chiefs, the guys who, you know, play in the WLA and MSL. Yes, will it hurt, you know, not having it? But being said that, it will develop the game to go forward. So if that means putting something back on history of making, you know, these teams become the AHL, then maybe that's the case that we got to go down in order to build this game. Maybe that's the case. As of a fan of lacrosse, I think all doors have to be open right now. We got to get this sport to become as big. If we want to be the next major league, we got to do the next major league things. And that means moving the schedule in order to impact. And that's for both leagues. The PLL needs to move their schedule. The NLL needs to move their schedule. The lacrosse in general will not be bigger if they do not realize that they need to work together. And that's one of the biggest sticking points. Guys who play in the MSL, guys who play in the WLA. There's a lot of Canadians that play in the league that would play PLL if they could play both. Because they can't play both, that's why they stay home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I often think about that because so many people make it like such a black and white thing of like, oh no, they just like box. They want to be box people. And I'm like, I just don't know that that's true. Like, you know, box is great and field is great. And like, at least for me, I always think, I feel like I'd like to play both. Like I would like the variation. I don't want to play field all the time. I don't want to play box all the time. Like I want some variation. I don't know if this is true or not, but there are a few guys like I think of Jeff Teat a lot, and I'm like, he just seems like a guy who just likes playing both versions. Growing up, I was a big Shaun White fan, the snowboarder, and he used to talk about that all the time, that like by the time the Olympics like had come and gone in snowboarding, he was tired of snowboarding. Like he wanted to go skateboard. He wanted to go do that. And I think about that all the time, especially around Jeff Teat, because people are always like, oh, you know, I don't know how much longer he's going to be playing field, which, and he may not, like he may decide he wants to go play MSL or something. I'm not saying I have any inside information, but I've always felt like he was one of those guys who just loves playing both versions. Like he wants to play both versions. And so it's cool to hear you say, I feel like the same thing, that there's a lot of guys out there that would play both if we would make it easier for them to do so in whatever capacity that takes. So.
100%. 100%. It makes the most sense, and it's correct. So, you know, guys have told me before, like I would play both if I could play both. So if I could play Summer League and play PLL, they would play both. These guys, like lacrosse athletes, are different. They're different. They don't care what they play. They just want to play lacrosse. And if that means that they got to choose between box or field, unfortunately, Canadians are going to choose box.
Yeah.
And don't get me started on sixes, because that's a whole nother debate that we can follow down the. Listen, that is that sixes lacrosse, as much as cool it is a field lacrosse. How can I say this? It's. Do you guys know the? West Jenny. Do you know what West Jenny is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is sixes lacrosse. West Jenny is sixes lacrosse to the T. Do you know why? Do you know one of the biggest reasons why is why box lacrosse or field lacrosse wasn't allowed to go to the Olympics?
Because of the field size?
Not because of the field size, because the U.S. president of U.S. lacrosse president didn't like box lacrosse. It was indoor lacrosse. That's what he called it. So he didn't like it. So what happened was he called sixes, which is West Jenny. You use it in practice for midfield and attackments in field lacrosse practice. That's what it's called. So he decided to take this idea and glorify it into sixes lacrosse. It's not new. It's old. It's an old practice plan that people used in order to build, in order to develop athletes around them. He didn't like indoor lacrosse. He knew that the Canadians and everyone wouldn't get behind of just putting field in it. So then he called it sixes lacrosse, and everyone thought it was a good idea because, it's a bit of field, it's a bit of box. But I said, I have guys I talk to, a lot of field goalies. They said field, like sixes at the Olympics, you're going to see goalies getting hurt left, right, and center. I mean, guys are shooting at 100 miles an hour just like on their offhand, man. Now you're putting them in a box formation and telling them to go at it. It's not a good look.
Hey, I'm on your side with sixes. Believe me, I've talked about this several times. I'm not huge on the game of sixes. And what's funny is you said it's a practice drill. I had friends who were in high school, and when I talked to them about it, they literally told me, "Hey, we used to do that in practice in high school." I was like, "Well,
the drill is called West Jenny. That's what it is. It's a glorified drill now." And like one of the other things is like, name another sport that has 3 different types of lacrosse being played. Name another sport. We're not saying wheelchair basketball is the same as NBA basketball. We're not saying sled hockey is regular hockey. But lacrosse is known to have 3 different sports in the same sport. I don't understand it.
Yeah. So one more thing before we move off of the scheduling. Assuming that they at some point move to summer, are we talking about a strictly summer schedule, or are we talking summer into fall, into winter? Like, because if you're increasing to 30 games, that obviously means you're going to have to play, Thursday through Monday or something like that, which means you need probably more weeks anyway. So how does that look then? Especially if PLL is going to end up moving to spring, like I think has been kind of rumored for a little while.
No, for sure. And I think we'll look at it Thursday to Monday. That's what I'm kind of gathered. I kind of haven't got a straight answer from people. They're like, I don't know. We'll see when we get there. Wow. I think it's going to be a Thursday to Monday thing. And again, everyone who wants, winter lacrosse as well, the Arena Lacrosse League ain't going anywhere. So if you don't know what the Arena Lacrosse League, it's a box lacrosse league that's in Canada. It's played in Ontario and it's played in BC. Right now it's called and known as like the AHL of the NLL right now. So that will just become the new WLA and the MSL. That's what it'll become. It won't, there will be still winter lacrosse, just not as high as the Mann Cup. Honestly, I believe once this all transpire, I think the NL Cup will become the Mann Cup. The Mann Cup is worth way more to people than the NL Cup.
And you think that that'll raise the bar for the NLO?
Well, 100%. 100%. The CLA kind of owns the rights to the Mann Cup, so they would have to pass it on to the NL. But I think, again, in order to get the sport to grow, you're going to have to give up some certain needs. And one of those needs is the CLA is going to have to step up and say, hey, let's give you guys the Mann Cup because it holds more value with players than it does with any other cup in lacrosse, especially with Canadians. Like, I've asked a player that won 3 Mann Cups, plays on the Six Nations, won two NLL Cups on the floor. What cup would you rather win if you had to choose one in your career? And he said, I would rather win the Mann Cup than the NL Cup. You're playing for your community. That says a lot. As we know, Summer League is not supposed to be professional, but guys are being paid.
Why is that so much more important to people? Because, like you said, at the same time that we're saying we're playing for community, there's a lot of Six Nations players that are not from the Six Nations. So they are not playing for their community, although there certainly are lots of people on not just on Six Nations, but on all the teams. There are lots of, more community local players, but there's also plenty that are not. So why is it that the Mann Cup is so important? Is it just the age and the history and before the NLL even existed, guys were playing for Mann Cups, and it's just kind of almost like the FA Cup in England and soccer, if anyone knows what that is, but that kind of thing. Is it just that, or is there more to it? Because people have this debate all the time on Twitter and social media and all that stuff about like the value of the Mann Cup versus the NLL Cup, and it's fascinating because I won't say it's the only case like that, but there are very few cases where the lower level trophy is the more important trophy in people's hearts and minds.
I honestly believe it's history. It's history. It's also, I believe it's community as much as, a lot of guys like Josh Byrne is from New Westminster, plays for the Sixes. So I get stuff like that. I get stuff, they're not playing with the community. And much of it, it's history. But, I don't, it's hard to put around of why guys think it's the hardest. I also think it's the hardest is because we legitimately saw 2 NLL super teams go head to head for Game 7. And one of the biggest downfall in the NLL right now is the playoff format. I'm glad that they got around this mini game because that was the worst idea in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you're not playing a mini game for a cup at any circumstance. So by playing a 7-game series, it's harder to win. So I think that's why guys rather win a Mann Cup than win an NLL Cup, just because it's that much harder to win.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that you said that kind of sparked in my mind was like Josh Byrne, for example. Yes, maybe is not playing for his, local team, but he did grow up probably going to New West Mann Cup games and stuff and kind of grew that, whereas he probably didn't really grow up. He probably watched them in NLL, but it's not like he went to those games. He met those players and stuff like he did with New West. So in that sense, there is a level of community involved that's not necessarily I'm playing for my specific community. So
Well, 100%. Like, if you guys look at the numbers of Vancouver Warriors, for an example, they hit 10,000 last year, right? You don't think there's more than 10,000 lacrosse fans in BC? Like, there's more people going to WLL games than there is Vancouver Warrior games. And that's just because diehards have salmon bellies. Like, if you're from New West, you're a salmon belly. That's how you're known. If you're from Coquitlam, you're an Adnak. If you're from Victoria, you're a Shamrock. Like, it's like going to one school and you hate this other school in high school. That's what it is.
So then at some point, do you see those teams in the MSL and WLA coming into like an NLL? Or is that kind of far-fetched?
there is talk about an all Canadian league. Like, it is true. There is talk about it. And that's one of the things I did clap about really hard was at the Oshawa Firewolves press conference when Fruit answered the question of, well, Canadian is our major market. What? Your major market is North America. That's your major market. It's United States. It's Canada. It's getting into spots will actually help you produce. Stop leaving areas that actually have fans. Like, there's Adam Levy put out a post. Sorry, no, it was Cody Jansen put out a post. I think it was in 2024. If you take those the top 6, they would be in the top 10 right now. So, being said that, like, stop leaving communities that are actually showing up. Yes, are you going to have a down year? Of course. You don't see the San Jose Sharks in the NHL leaving because they have one down year. No, they suck. No one's going to go watch a sucky team. Do better.
I grew up obviously a Hurricanes fan, and yeah, it's one of the best stadiums, best arenas you can be in when they're consistently good, like the last 5 or so years, and obviously around 2006 when we won the cup. Like, it's one of the best arenas you can be in. But in 2018, that place was miserable. It was miserable. So, like you said, sometimes you just got to be better. You just got to do better. And there's always those diehards. Oh, I just realized you're from Edmonton. I probably shouldn't have.
2006 hurts, man.
I apologize.
If Dwayne Rollison didn't get hurt, we're still winning that thing. But it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Do you know what? Honestly, I'll say this on air. I think I might be one of the only Edmonton guys that actually hates the Edmonton Oilers. Like, I hate hockey with a passion. Like, hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it anymore. I used to cheer for the Oilers for a diehard for a few years. I hate it. It's dumb. This city has gotten to the point they're more centered about one professional team than any other team in the whole entire world. If they bring an NLL team to Edmonton, I will tell you I might go to an Oilers game. But until then, I'm boycotting until it happens. Not happening. Like, I'm not going to a game. I hate it. I hate it.
I mean,
I'll say this. I was hoping that Connor McDavid didn't re-sign in Edmonton. That's how much I wanted this city just to implode.
Oh.
On that note, I don't know.
So,
as far
Brandon, you're a Colorado Mammoth fan, so you know who John Lentz is, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Have you seen his tweet this year about the Bill Hunter?
I haven't seen much of him recently.
So Bill Hunter is where Edmonton Junior A minors play. We were not allowed to put turf down in that building. We're majority kicked out of buildings in Edmonton right now, surrounding area, when it comes close to the end of the season. Playoff games are not being played in the original barn because they want to put ice in to play hockey. Like, I'm telling you, major athletes that are playing in the NL right now, in the NHL right now, like Connor McDavid, play lacrosse. They're not playing hockey 24/7. Sorry, ma'am, but your kid's not going to the NHL. I don't know what you need to do, but your kid's not making it. Just stop putting so much money and play lacrosse. You have more of a chance of playing professional lacrosse than you do have playing professional hockey.
And like you said, most of the top hockey guys play lacrosse. Wayne Gretzky played lacrosse. Like, there's so many of them.
Played lacrosse.
Yeah. Right? Like, there's so many of them play lacrosse.
Yeah.
And as far as Brett Fruit's comment about Canada being a target audience, because I was vocal about that on the timeline, that I didn't like it. I was vocal about it on here. I don't like it. Is that a legitimate thought of trying to get it to be all Canadian, or is it more of a, hey, we need to focus on the Canadian audience for now and then come back down to the States? Because there are a few teams in the States that I think are absolutely fine. I think there's one that's rumored to be moving that shouldn't be moving. but that's neither here nor there. But like, are we at that point where like that is a goal, or is it more of just like a, hey, we need to boost that audience because box lacrosse is like a national sport for you guys?
It's hard to say of what he kind of gathers out of it. I do think that, maybe coming up here, developing up the league might be a good idea. But also, there's not a lot of markets up here in Canada where, there's 3 major provinces that play lacrosse. No offense to Sask or Manitoba, but they have weaker numbers than anyone else does. Sask does really well. The Rush do really well because they're one of the only 2 professional sports that are playing in the province. That's why the Rough Riders do so well. That's why the Rush do so well, because they're the only 2 professional sports playing in the province. Manitoba, there's not a lot of kids playing lacrosse. Has it been building? Yes, it has been building. We moved down the line to like Quebec and Ontario. Ontario is the mecca house of lacrosse in Canada. Absolutely. Quebec, it's starting to grow. You move down the line, continue, it's starting to grow. Is it as big as what people think it is? Not really. Alberta is the 3rd biggest, lacrosse hotbed in Canada right now, and it's not even that big. So I'll give you numbers. In 2015, when the Edmonton Rush stayed here, in the greater of Edmonton, there's 2,200 lacrosse people playing in what we call the Greater Edmonton Lacrosse Council. So that's a league from, U9 all the way to U17. Now there's I think there's 2,300, so roughly about the same kind of number. We're staying on the same pace. We're not growing. We're not getting worse. We're staying on the same pace. I mean, COVID had a really effect of that, and that's where we see a lot more teams are coming in at U9. But the middle pack, there's not really a lot of guys that are coming back because, they lost those 2 years of growth of actually hooking kids to be, lacrosse athletes.
That's interesting. Because I have several friends in the lacrosse space who are fully convinced that Frood wants to make it a Canadian-only league. And like we've talked about on here, that for a while I didn't believe it. Then I started to believe it. I'm kind of in between. Again, I don't always agree with moving teams. Philly being the biggest one here, I don't really understand the reason they're moving. I understand like the logistics and literal reasons why they could be moving, but as far as like, I feel like their fan base is generally pretty strong. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like,
yeah. So Philly doesn't have an owner right now at all. There's no owner. Joe JSI, who owns the Las Vegas Desert Dogs and owns the San Diego Seals, he's paying the fee right now to keep that team alive this year. That's coming out of his pocket. So, like, yes, those Georgia is the other team, but Philly's the one that really has to move because there's no ownership. I don't know why the Philadelphia Flyers don't want to own a team. It's been proven that it can work under right ownership. But it's just one of those things where, like, you can't convince a big group organization to buy a team when they don't want to. I'll say this. The PCLC was offered to an NHL team in the NLL that was offered to an NHL team, and they said no on it.
Yeah. So then, I mean, if they don't have an owner, how would they even move somewhere else? Or are we talking about them just completely folding?
They would move. So Joe JSI would, say, here's the price that I paid. This is the price that I want. He's kind of an owner, but not an owner. Really, the league owns it. The league owns it. Yeah.
So then is there, I guess, any chance that someone comes in and buys it and keeps it in Philly? Or is it basically a done deal that, like, they're gone?
One of the things is that with NL, in order to grow, they have to start owning their own arenas. In order to own your own arena, you have to have a lot of you have to have a lot of money. So like Vancouver, Calgary, Buffalo, those 4 teams, Sask, they own their own arena. They're part of the Saskatoon Blades of the WHL. They own that arena. So with them owning it, it helps them because whatever is being sold at the arena and the tickets generated from the arena helps them to make money. So with Philly, they have to get to like the Philadelphia Flyers have to buy that team in order for it to stay there, in my opinion.
So we got to figure out how to get the Flyers / Sixers to buy that team.
It's true, and like I've said it from there's a lot of people in and around Edmonton that could buy an NLL team, but we all know it's not going to work unless the OAG's committed of having the team. It didn't work under Bruce Urban because him and Cates could never get along because Cates always wanted to get the best price from renting out his building, and Bruce Urban always wanted a deal. It was never going to work. That's why the team moved. It was because in 2015, when the new arena was being built, Rogers Place, when Rexall shut down, the Rush were going to be able to move over to the new building. So that's why the Rush had to move. It was because of one, arena availability was zero. That's why they moved.
Yeah.
Dang. I don't know. Now I don't know where Vernon O'Neill's going to play.
Sounds like Edmonton.
Maybe Edmonton. Maybe
I was going to say.
There's two. Listen, it's not a done deal between Edmonton getting a team next year, but it's between. If I would have to bet on it right now, I would say it's between Georgia or Philly.
I mean, we've talked about Georgia quite a few times not having fans show up to their games. So
the thing is Georgia the NL needs to stop going to markets like that where Georgia plays in, where it's so hard to fly into. That's why Albany didn't really work. It was so much money that teams were paying in order to get guys down there just because of flights. They moved to Oshawa. It's easier to get into. Is it the best? Not really. But it's better than Albany. Albany kind of they had a hot market. It didn't work. I do agree them moving to Oshawa will help the league more than hurting the league. I think it's another market. Being Americans like you guys and a lot of American fan base, from Oshawa to where Hamilton, that's where Toronto Rock play, it's a 5-hour drive. Dalek's mad because they feel like they're tapping into his fan base. You're not tapping into someone's fan base when you have to drive 5 hours for an NLL game. I'm sorry. That's a weak statement.
Yeah.
All right, well, hopefully there's an NLL season coming.
Listen, there is going to be an NLL season. If there's not an NLL season this year, I will give away tickets to every single NLL franchise next year. 2 tickets to every NLL franchise. I'll put it on record. I will do it. Seriously, I'm 95% sure that there will be a season. 100%. You keep me to my word. Next year, I'll give 2 tickets to every single home opener next year if there's not an NLL season.
That sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
One of the biggest... I'll get to here's the juicy parts of the CBA. There's massive changes. I mean, massive changes are coming. Offer sheets in after year 3 for rookies are starting to happen in this new CBA. So, for example, CJ Kurst, after he signs his 3-year deal, after the 3-year deal is over, someone like another team can go and offer sheet CJ Kurst, can go and offer sheet whoever after the rookie contract. So, again, we all remember the Christian Del Bianco Christian Dalbianco being stuck in Calgary, there's a rule in place in this new CBA will stop that from happening. If he doesn't want to play there, there's some sort of, I can't really gather information because they're trying to keep it hidden, but I'll say there is a rule in place that will try to help those situations. The second thing of it is franchise tag people is now 1 year less than what it used to be. In order to get to unrestricted free agency, so UFA, they'll be 1 year less. So everything's dropping down by 1 year, plus offer sheets are now made available after year 3.
It is interesting that they're doing offer sheets for rookies, but then to be an unrestricted free agent, you still have to wait such a long time. It's a step in the right direction, I recognize, but because what is the age right now? Is it 33? It's not that long, is it?
It's something around, I can't exactly remember the I think it's 32 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's
so I mean, it's, if you're getting drafted at 20, 22, 20, even 23, like, playing a decade, that's a bit much. I also recognize that they have to get something on their end, so it makes sense. But I do think it is cool that at least rookies can get that offer. I would assume then teams have the opportunity to match in that scenario. So you still have a little bit of movement that could occur, which I think will help.
100%.
But
100%.
I mean, step in the right direction for sure. Compared to right now, you have to play your whole career, and then they're like, "Oh, you can be a free agent now." It's like by that point, you've already set up shop at wherever you are. Like, there's no point in you going somewhere else. So
yeah, and that's where it's coming. That's where one of the biggest asks was, from going into, everyone thought, the Christian Dalbianco thing would happen, would be one of the major topics. I would say that topic is long gone. It's long gone. Like it's been dealt with. It's been dealt with like a couple weeks ago. It's again, there's about 25 things that's still in the way that remains a hurdle. But again, by Friday or within a week, there'll be a CBA.
I like it. You heard it here first.
yeah.
You think I get this up for early?
Well, hey, we've heard that Reed's going on a couple pods dropping, in the next couple of days. So let's hope that he's echoing that same, positivity. I'm sure he is. He's a great dude. So I'm sure he's at least happier than he was, whatever it was last Thursday when there was that bad day. So,
well, Tyler Pace and Christian Dalbianco put out there, deal or no deal. That was their post of advertising that Reed going on the podcast.
Yeah, that was incredible marketing by them. They're killing the marketing game for that one for sure.
100%. Like I said, there'll be a CBA. Like there has to be. There's too much to lose. There's too much to lose for this season not to happen. It'll hurt the lacrosse. It'll hurt the NLL more than we ever can think of. If one of the biggest concerns is right now is try to have a full season after the CBA, there's going to be a lot of people calling. A lot of people calling to get visas done and everything else done. Because there's sponsorships, and then there's sponsorships who are not in, hey, let's try out for kind of a year. Those sponsorships are the ones, they got to really worried about because they're trying to suck them in and keep them in. Yeah. If there's not a season, those guys are not coming back. So there's, more people that you're losing deals with instead of having something to be, a future partnership in having a lacrosse season. And again, it's as much as people want, it's not a 1-year deal. It's a 5-year deal being talked about with an opt clause in year 4 and 5.
This is big stuff.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this when we were saying that we were going to get you on is how much it feels, and I'm coming from a field perspective, but how much this feels like there was kind of this, Brandon and I talked about it a couple weeks ago, the PLL did this really good job of kind of ramping up into their championship. And in a weird way, that served to like be a good like on ramp for me. Like all of a sudden I was excited about the upcoming NLL season. And it feels like not having an NLL season for a multitude of reasons. Obviously this would be probably somewhat fairly low, but that conversion rate, because you got CJ Curse obviously was the number one, and Owen Hiltz had this really, really good summer, and he was drafted third, and you got the Kavanaugh brothers in San Diego, and there's so much working for getting field people invested into some kind of an NLL team or viewership, or even if it's just, hey, I really love CJ Curse, I want to watch him play. And I was thinking about like, yeah, how much of a big problem it could be amongst, again, the myriad of reasons of why it would be a not good reason, but just thinking about that and the opportunity to kind of carry off of what the PLL did this summer, that could be a problem. And I don't want to phrase it in a field setting, but that's just kind of the way that my brain operates a little bit right now. So I'm like, oh man, I really, really hope that, obviously it sounds like we're going to, but hopefully we get it sorted out and we can get into camps in the next couple of weeks here.
No, and I think that's what everyone's pushing for is right now, is to get to camp. I mean, you don't see teams advertising to buy season tickets if they don't think there's going to be a season. There's teams posting every single day. There's a TV deal in Las Vegas Desert Dogs today.
Yeah.
You think that deal is happening if there's not a season? I'm sorry, but that's not how business works.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it feels like we're moving. Last week was pretty down, and it feels like this week it's been maybe in a weird kind of way. Last week was a necessary thing to kind of wake people up and be like, okay, we have to get this stuff sorted out, even if it means we got to give some concessions. Because look, I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for either of you guys, but there were several requests being made by the PLLPA or NLLPA that I was like, yeah, I can understand why if I was an owner, I'd push back on some of these things. And I can also, same thing be said the other way, the NLLPA's requests, I can understand. Some of those I was like, yeah, why is this not a thing? This should be a thing. And I don't want to be the pessimist here, but maybe the answer is that no one's happy, and that's the actual answer.
It's tough because there's a lot of guys in the league who have been around in this league since they got drafted out of junior. They wanted to make money. They're like, this, if I go and play, it'll be the next big thing. I can be a professional lacrosse guy. There's not a lot of players. There's not a lot of players or professional lacrosse players that just play lacrosse. Is there more and more guys happening? Yes, of course. But, it comes to a point where, like, how much more can we give? I think that's one of the kind of things is they're at the sticking point. I've heard, and it's not to tweet my own horn, but before that stuff was released, I got that stuff, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday at like midnight, my time, Mountain Time. And I was told, hey, please post this. Hey, please post this by several people, And I said, man, like, I'll think about it. And then I said, you know what, on Thursday night, I said, what's the worst that we can lose, man? We're about to lose the season. Maybe this can help. And I said, you know what, screw it. And that's when I text Brandon, FY, make sure you tell all your people that there's something big going to drop. And when I told you something big was going to drop, something big did drop. And, it did take it over the, lacrosse Twitter, and it got through like friends that I haven't even talked about in years. They're like, Das, what are you doing? This isn't a hurt. And I'm like, no, man, there's not, you can't hurt the situation as much as it was. It was like ugly during that period. Mm-hmm. The next meeting that the NLPA had with the PRC, it wasn't good. It was a lot of finger pointing, a lot of like, what is this BS? What is that BS? And blah, blah, blah. both sides didn't really have that document. 5 minutes after it was posted, that landed on Reed's desk. 5 minutes after. So with that being said, and then the NL didn't get the NLPA's documents. So everything was on the table already. Everything was being shown. They didn't have to worry about, if we say this, they're going to take the deal because that's what they wanted. There's nothing being held back anymore. Everything's okay. This is where we want to be. Where do you want to be? That's how I determine. That's how I determine. That's how talks right now are going.
So, what you're saying is, when the NLL season starts, hopefully the first week of November, we have you to thank for it.
Hey, I'm not taking any credit. I don't want any credit. I don't want any credit. I was just told what someone asked. And you know what? If it was a puzzle to the piece, I'm glad. But honestly, I don't care if people liked it, retweet it, like my post, repost my post. I don't care. What I want at the end of the day is lacrosse to be played. And that way kids, that way fans, that way guys like us can watch the game that we all love. That's the point of lacrosse. It's not to get, I hate this team because, I used to hate the Calgary Roughnecks as much as anyone when the Rush were here. Do I like them now? Yeah, because they're the only Alberta team. Will I hate them when the Edmonton team comes back? Probably not. I don't like any other. I'm not saying that I don't like Buffalo. I don't like Toronto. There's a couple teams around, the NLL that I don't like, but those are for different reasons. But being said that, I just want lacrosse to be played. That's all I want. I want guys to enjoy the sport that they're playing. I want fans to be back in the seats. I want us to enjoy it on the TV. I want us to fly to games. Enjoy it there. Just enjoy lacrosse. There's so much that this sport has given to me that I feel like I need to give back. So if it was a way of, the NL season after 2 tweets, hey man, I'm glad that, Elon Musk made it happen.
Breaking news, Elon Musk pushes up lacrosse tweets to help NLL season.
Yeah. I think that might have just been more of that Canadian modesty that we're hearing about. He's like, no, it wasn't me. It was you.
I will say, after that stuff dropped, it was actually really helpful because I had conversations with people in the DMs like I've never talked to, never met, and I'm like, yo, are you guys seeing this stuff? And they're like, oh, I heard this, and I'm like, well, here's the document, look at this stuff, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, so this is actually what's being asked. This is what they came back with here. Because sometimes I think we get caught in this cycle of just constant rumors and we've been in a negotiation before, so we know what this must be like. But when in reality, it's like, well, this is actually what's happening. And then after that, it felt like it was just on an upswing of actually, let's just get together and make a deal, And so I'll give you credit. You don't have to take the credit, but I'll give you credit because when I saw that on the timeline, I was like, oh my goodness.
And I'll say this. I was always, some of the players ask, I totally agree with. And at the start, I was on the players. I hate seeing people say, oh, players are asking moon to the stars. What? What are you talking about? They're asking for a fair deal. I hate those comments. And then I hate the comments where owners are not giving as much to the players. That's not how a deal works. Get it out of your mind, people. These people love the game of lacrosse. They wouldn't put this much effort into the NL in order to save a season if they didn't care about it. These guys care. It's to the point where, listen, the one thing that crossed my mind was tweeting it out was, hey, I might get suspended from not going to arenas. That was one of my biggest concerns. From what I've been gathered and been told, these owners are not mad that it was been posted. Owners are not mad. Some players are happy that I posted it. It puts a clarity on them. It speaks to them that, hey, sorry. It speaks to them that, this is what we're actually asking. This is what the NL is asking. It's not where fans are hidden in the dark and just talking stuff about lacrosse. And like all those people that hate lacrosse and saying, "Oh, look at this is stupid." Well, here you go, man. This is what we're talking about, okay? 85% of people don't make money, but somehow we're still putting it on. So you just to go over and bash lacrosse, woohoo, good for you, man. Everyone could do that. Anyone could do that. But it's guys like yourself, Neil and Brandon, myself, Adam, go down the list that are putting time and effort, and all the ownership, all the players are putting dedicated hours away from their families, putting hours and hours on end, trying to build this game of lacrosse. This is what it's all about. It's coming together as a community. Together we unite. Together we will not fall. And that's what's coming down to the conclusion of that's why we're going to have an NLL season.
Yeah, and I think that is the kind of like you said, I'd have been worried about what's going to come back at me if and when I post this. But there was something about once you posted it, it was like everyone kind of understood everything now. Like we kind of understand where the owners are coming from and how much money it costs to run this league and how little we're getting back for that. And then you also understand where the players are coming from of like, these are the things that we're having to, the concessions that we're making in our personal lives and stuff. And so like, it just kind of put everybody on the level playing field. And like you said, now we can just start working on, all right, this is where everyone's at. How do we get from here to here for the start of the season? And so, yeah, I'm glad that it hasn't really come back on you in any way. And hopefully that stays. I don't know why it would change now at this point, but hopefully it stays that way. Cause you did, I think the thing that we all would want to do, like you said, we all want to see the season. We all want to see the guys on the floor where they belong. And, luckily it sounds like we're going to get there. And with that all being said, we've been talking for over an hour now. And I know it's probably about dinner. Oh, my watch actually died during the show. It's probably about dinner time out there where you are. It's probably almost dinner time where Brandon is. So,
we're same time zone.
Are you the same time? I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not entirely sure of Canadian geography, so it's like I know.
He's
it's
directly south from me. He's directly south.
Okay.
Draw a line.
If you would talk to some people, you'd be north of me because of the. Oh, I'm not a scientist. Don't ask me about it. Mile high. I know they just say it's a mile high city. That's all I know.
Yep.
That's true. I
played lacrosse. Have you ever played lacrosse there in Denver?
I played other sports, not lacrosse.
Neil?
But
no, I know. I never play. I'm trying to think. My sister was in Colorado Springs. That's as close.
That's even higher.
That's
higher.
Like Air Force's stadium is like 6. It's like the third highest in college football. It's like 6,000 feet.
I don't know. I don't know how Colorado and Denver Broncos don't win every single game, man. That's the hardest place to play.
Well,
it is. It sucks.
It's tough if you have to play one game there, you can get through one game. It's just a matter of making sure you have the oxygen on you, and it also is a little overstated, I will say. Granted, there have been times when I've done stuff out of state and been like, oh, this is easy, I can walk around and whatever. But some people think it's you're 14,000 feet on the top of a mountain, breathing no oxygen, when in reality it's mostly good. But definitely if you're coming from sea level, you're gonna struggle, or somewhere else like that. It can be tough. Even I going up those Air Force steps at their stadium, oh my goodness. I have to pause at the top of the steps because I'm winded. And that's only me going up 800 feet in elevation. It's awful.
It didn't seem to be a problem for you guys this weekend, did it?
For who?
Your Broncos.
Oh, we're playing in Philly, man.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't a problem.
Not at all. Not at all. What a great game that was. Shout out to my guy Kyle. I know he's hurting. I hope the Phillies pulled through for him. Down 0-2 right now, I believe. So, Just a bad week for them, but you know, it's good over here. It sounds like we're about to have an NLL season where I can watch these guys lift another cup. You know, it's gonna be sweet.
I gotta say, if you like to bet on sports, go bet on the Colorado Mammoth. I don't know why it's plus 1,200 or plus 1,600, but it's time to do a little bit of a sprinkle because there is an NLL season, and if you want to make money, that's one way to make money. I mean, Connor Knock is one hell of a shooter.
Yep.
Like, Zed Williams being traded is not really going to hurt you guys that much. Eli coming back, like, I'm telling you, the way that, you know, all those guys that played Summer League or played in the PLL, they looked even better this year. They're going to be that much better. There's no way that there's going to be 2 losing seasons under Pat Coyle.
Well, and realistically, like, they only, in my opinion at least, the reason they had a losing season was because they lost Eli. Next week they lost Zed. All of a sudden you lose Dylan Ward for a game. You lose Robert Hope and, you know, your big defenders for a game. And it's like all of a sudden it's snowballs. But also, is this you saying that Eli's done with his firefighting training and he's back for the full season?
I'm not 100%, but I would think that he comes back 100% for a full season somewhere down the line.
That's what I like to hear.
Would I say beginning of the season? I'm not sure of it. Middle of the season? I think so.
I'll take whatever I can get.
I mean, listen, they're beating Calgary in the last game of the year to get into the playoffs every day of the week. If they have Eli, they have Zed. Every day. Even with Nick Rose, give it to me. Like, they almost took Calgary down in that game. It wasn't until a fourth quarter that took them out. Listen, Calgary's not going to be the same this year. There's multiple reports that they might be trading a lot of pieces away. I'll leave with you guys.
Yeah, I saw the Tar Pit Mammoth supporter group. They tweeted at Curtis Dixon earlier this offseason. It was like, hey, if you want to come to Colorado. So, I fingers crossed. I don't think it happens, but it would be kind of cool.
I will have an article about Curtis Dixon. I did talk to him about a couple weeks ago about NL free agency. He will be staying in the West. He didn't tell me a Pacific team, but I have a hard time believing it will be Calgary.
Wow. Pat. I mean,
Nick
I'm
Rose,
hoping that means he's not going to Vancouver.
I'll give you another tidbit. I'll leave with you guys with this one, last one, because I know Neil wants to go. Nick Rose to Toronto is not a done deal. He wants to win a cup more than anything else. There's 3 teams that would put Nick Rose into the conversation. This is me talking. Toronto Rock, yes, you have to keep them on the list. Halifax, they need a better goalie than Warren Hill and Drew Hutchison. Rochester, you have 2 guys that played Senior B and Senior A. One guy led the league in Senior B that had, he had the most points to the President's Cup. And then you have Ryan Smith, that was Ryan Launchberry. And then the other Ryan, who had the most points and then was the MVP in the Mann Cup. Their defense was like the 5th worst defense in the entire NLL season last year. If you include Nick Rose, don't you think that they're making more of a chance to run for the NLL Cup?
I mean, they already look dangerous with a lot of the moves they've made. And I agree they need to improve probably goaltending-wise, so that would be crazy. I still hope he can just be like the Mammoth's Eastern game goalie. We could have Wardo stay home, play all the West, and Nick Rose can play all the East. I think that's a great plan. Go get Superman, come on down. I'm just saying. These are great, totally non-biased opinions.
The other team I would go sprinkle money on if you're, again, a sporting guy, like to bet on sports, Vancouver Warriors.
Yep.
I don't know how they have the 5th best odds, or they're number 5 on some platforms, That's absolutely crazy to me. It's crazy. Del Bianco moved their save percentage from a 77% up to an 80%. And how many games did he play after the trade deadline? Not a lot. More games was played with Walsh being in net. Del Bianco is the difference. Del Bianco will bring in guys like Curtis Dixon, Jesse King.
Whoa. Is that... Sounds like we got a couple of dudes on the move, even more west.
I'll go on record right now saying I will be surprised if Calgary doesn't lose a couple pieces.
Yeah.
I think they're in a full amount of rebuild, especially with the 2026 draft coming, the 2027 draft coming. I think they're on a move where they'll bring in, they want to get younger and they want to get better. In order way to get younger, they got to move on guys like Jesse King, Curtis Dixon. But again, you can't count those guys out on going back. Walshy will do a difference. Walshy will do a difference, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough.
Well, with the condensed free agency, I'm very excited because I think this could be a bigger movement offseason than we've probably ever seen or close to.
I believe that there'll be more guys be going closer to home than we have seen in previous. I think previous free agencies, guys would be willing to travel. I think this free agency, I think guys will be willing to move home, closer to home for less travel, just because how tight it is with the minute the CBA is, a deal's done, the next day free agency will start.
Well, we got a lot to look forward to. Dawson, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. It's Dawson J Nielsen, Nielsen. Follow me. Anyone who follows me, I always give them a follow back. I love the discussions on Twitter. I know that I'll be coming out the minute that the NLL comes out with the CBA. I'll be announcing about 3 tickets packages away. I'm going to give 3 ticket packages away just to put on a shed of how much, dirty laundry I kind of put out there in the last couple weeks. I will do due diligence and I will give back to the community, and I'll be giving away 3 ticket prizes away. And those 3 ticket prizes will be the winners of whatever game they want to go to.
I love it.
You have to follow me. You have to follow me. You have to follow Neil. You got to follow Brandon, and you got to follow the pod in order to get in.
Man of the people and of the pod. I like it. I'm here for it. All right. Excuse me. We will get out of here on that. But Dawson, we really, really appreciate you coming on. And at some point, I'm sure during the NLL season, we'll have you back to talk about the actual games on the floor. How about that?
100%. Anytime, Brandon, you have my number. Feel free anytime you guys want to come on. I will try to get the CBA announced the minute I hear it. I will be posting on Twitter.
All right.
Sweet.
We will be checking in for that. So thanks again for joining us.
No worries. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
All right. That is our interview with Dawson J Nielsen. A lot to talk about there. Just to process and go through. Not that we're going to go through it all, but any big shocks coming to you, Brandon? You've been talking to Dawson pretty much for the last 2 weeks, so probably wasn't much of a shock to you.
I mean, there were definitely just a lot of things that I think it was helpful to be maybe ask questions and get a little bit of clarification on, because obviously I'm by no means an insider, but I know a lot of lacrosse people, so I hear a lot of things. So being able to ask about specifically the whole Canada League thing, that's good information. And the 30 games, I had heard, I just mentioned that to some people earlier that the schedule is going to be expanded, but what does that actually look like? That he definitely went more in depth than I thought he was going to about a lot of different things. I think whether or not this is true, like having, Jesse King potentially and Curtis Dixon maybe going to Vancouver. I saw some other people on Twitter post that like that was a prediction for them for agency wise, which makes sense. But those are still big names that like if that happens would be huge. And as far as the one thing I wanted to mention too was him saying a lot of guys he expects them to kind of go home and play closer to home for travel purposes and things. I do have to wonder if seeing some of the numbers as to how much it costs to run the league, if that's affecting their free agency, decisions. Because if like I know guys that are playing in San Diego right now that are flying from, the East, Ryan Benesh, I believe, could be wrong, but I believe lives in Halifax or Ontario, somewhere over there. So flying to San Diego is, that's costly. Whereas if someone like him could go play in his backyard, you're saving the league money, which means potentially making more money. That way next time CBA comes up, it's less of a, well, look how much we're losing. It's like, well, hey, this is a better situation. So I do find that interesting. Whether or not that's actually taken into account, who knows? Players want to win. So, but definitely interesting.
I had two thoughts about that. One, first was sort of along the same lines as you and the idea of like money and going home and stuff. And it just reminded me of how many guys we've seen kind of leave the PLL during the summer and go play MSL, and how much just, having a lighter schedule and being able to be home with family and stuff and not have to be traveling every single weekend, was like a big factor in that for a lot of guys. And I had sort of a similar thought of like, I hadn't really thought about like the idea that guys would maybe want to go be closer to family and stuff. And it made a lot of sense when he said it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then number two is just what on the, not the last episode, because that was SL Price. The last episode me and you were on together, I told you I was thinking that Toronto was going to be the NLL team, but I also told you that I really, really wanted to like Vancouver. And if Jesse King ends up in Vancouver, we might have a real problem on our hands. And I might be battling within myself for an NLL fandom. But
yeah. Well, I mean, he's especially like he plays for Victoria in the summer. Like that makes so much sense for him, and like not that Calgary is necessarily like a bad of all the commutes you could be making playing lacrosse. That's not a horrible one. You know what I mean?
Bad.
But like if you could just go and literally go across, the little river, whatever you call it there, like go do that, and I think the writing has been on the wall for Calgary specifically for at least the last couple of seasons. That's just like, you either got to win right now, especially when Dobie was still playing, or you have to kind of offload. And, Aiden Walsh, like he said, will absolutely help them. But, I mean, they got a bunch of guys that just, I don't know where they fit anymore. And it's almost like they're too jumbled of like rebuilding, but still kind of have these guys that are like bona fide stars. But that doesn't always mesh. So it wouldn't shock me to see a guy like him leave. It is interesting to me that he specifically mentioned Curtis Dixon as staying in the West, but potentially leaving. He seemed like a guy that was trying to finish out his career there. So I still think he probably stays in Calgary, but especially with Dane now being retired, like maybe he's like, hey, because they were attached at the hip for, their whole careers, essentially.
Well, and like you were saying, it could be one of those things where they're going to look at a rebuild now. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to be here for a rebuild. As much as I thought, I was coming back to Calgary to stay. That's not what I'm here for. I'm going to go try and chase a ring. That always sounds so negative in my head. Like, typically when you say chase a ring, it's like a bad thing. But
no. Yeah. But in this case, that's absolutely a good thing, because it's like some of these guys, like this is their only chance. And like, but even like him saying staying in the West, okay, that assuming he leaves, that leaves Vancouver, Colorado, San Diego, Vegas. Okay, he's not going to Vegas. Mm-mm. If you're coming that far anyway from Vancouver, which I believe is where he lives, you're coming to Colorado. Would he be okay making that trip? Potentially. Eli McLaughlin makes it. Connor Robinson makes it. Thomas Vela. Like we have a lot of guys, Connor Cook, a lot of guys that come from Vancouver. So maybe he would. he's been with San Diego. I know that relationship ended kind of iffy, to say the least. So does he want to go back there? Which makes Vancouver the most likely landing place in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be awesome to kind of see him maybe make a surprise and be like, just kidding. I'm going to reroute. And not just him, but there's a lot of guys. The fact that he mentioned Nick Rose in the same sentence as Rochester and Halifax, when he was talking about it, I was like, duh, this makes so much sense. Like, both of those teams could use an upgrade. Like, why have I not thought about that? You know, but coming into the conversation, I was like, what? Calgary or Toronto? It's one of those. So I'm also really excited to see guys like him and kind of what his thought process is.
Well,
You know,
and the same thing that we were just talking about the idea of, like, you know, Nick Rose ain't a young cat anymore. You know, like he's going to be looking to try and chase a ring as well. And Toronto certainly looks like they're going to be vastly improved, but does that mean championship level? Maybe not. Probably not. Like, let's just be real here. Probably not. You know, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, their problem is they haven't been able to get past the Bandits. Even when, I mean, even prior to last year when they were, you know, they had a bad year. Let's just be honest. It was a fluke. It really was.
Yes.
But even when they were good, like they just ran into this brick wall that like couldn't get there, which is why I don't think he goes to Halifax for that reason, because I don't think Halifax is as close as he would want to be. Like, it at least in my head, I think he's thinking Toronto #1 because he works at their training facility, like full time.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes the most sense. But also, like, if he wants to leave to chase a ring, like, Rochester looks scary dangerous right now. And, like, it's, granted, I've never traveled from where he is to Rochester. I would imagine it's not that hard to get to. And if you know you're playing with guys like Ryan Smith, I'm blanking, Connor Fields, like all these other guys that I'm like, hey, they could take down a Buffalo team. Zed Williams gets traded there, like playing for his home nation as well. Like, does that add an extra layer of like, we're going to go win? You know what I mean? So I am interested to see kind of where he lands. In my mind, though, it's between Toronto and Rochester after that conversation. But I'm not counting out Calgary. I just think you don't make the trade for Aiden Walsh if you're like, no, we're going to bring back Rosie. Like, and honestly, I like Aiden Walsh, so I hope he does well, just not against the team from Colorado.
Oh, jeez. You and your Colorado teams.
Hey, I can be a fan when we're talking on here.
I mean, that's
when I'm in the building, I can't really be a fan. So,
I mean,
there's limited times. I can talk to some guys, you know, when I see him pre or post, but that's about it.
All right. Well, that's all I got. You got it? You got anything else? No?
I'm good. I'm hoping that we sort of covered it enough to where when it's actually announced, we don't have to do a whole recap. Because if it comes out and we're like, we didn't talk about any of this, you know, that's going to be
it's completely different from what we talked about.
Right. Honestly, for the most part, from what I'm seeing, we talked about the biggest stuff that's changing with the ages of free agency and rookies and all that. Everything else from what I read seems to just be like a difference in dollars. Like, this is what's covered now for Jim. We want this much covered more for Jim, or that, you know, so it's just scales kind of shifting. Could be totally wrong, but I think that's honestly what it is. And I'm glad we got to this point, but I still need to see it, like, hand that final baton off and take it to the finish line, because I'm not going to fully believe it till it happens.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But with that, we will get out of here. Brandon and I will hopefully be taking a couple of weeks off. We'll be back probably the first week of November. If you enjoyed today's show or any other show for that matter, don't forget to leave a review of the pod. Give this episode a like. Follow us on social media at RunOutPod. Brandon is at Hoot Sports Media, and I am Neil Barrett. For all three of those, that is on both Instagram and Twitter. I don't know, because you do so much photography, you might be on Instagram a little bit more. I would say most of interactions are going to be on Twitter, but which isn't to say that
I post things. I post photos on Instagram more than I've been lacking honestly on Twitter. I've been meaning to, but I just forget. But like Twitter, if you want to have a conversation, I'm pretty active on there too.
yeah.
So now again, I don't have much insider knowledge, so don't come at me asking different, deep questions. But I'll gladly have a discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually been on Instagram more in the last couple of weeks. More than I have been in the last couple of years. I wouldn't say more than Twitter, but I've been trying
to kind of wean myself off of being so much on social media. I'll say that. It's tough in today's world, especially with this going on. But, I find myself sometimes just not even like doom scrolling, but just like not being like, I'm not doing anything productive necessarily. I'm not talking to anyone. I'm just like, why? And I'm like, why am I on here? Like,
I had that thought today at work. I was in the middle of working on something, excuse me. And my boss came in and was like, hey, are you in a position where you can just stop whatever it is that you're doing and go load a whole bunch of stuff into a truck and take it to our storage facility and, essentially just be some muscles for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, sure. No problem. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but my wallet or my phone was on the desk and I just kind of got up and went and helped. Didn't think twice about it until we're like unloading at the storage facility and there was just like a lull and I'm just standing there. I think they maybe walked down to go check something else or something. And I just felt myself like instinctively doing that like cell phone reach of just like, hey, my brain is not occupied right now. I'm going to pull out my phone. And I had a similar thought of like, oh man, I'm actually kind of glad I don't have my phone right now. So it's crazy
what that thing can do. I mean,
it is. And like you said,
and you don't realize it until you're in that moment. And then you're like, oh, I don't have it. I was fine for, 2 hours, but now I'm like, all of a sudden I need to have the screen. And it's like, you don't actually need it.
And now that we have said all of that, we are going to encourage you once again to use your phone to communicate with us and like and review the podcast and do all that stuff.
Hey, use a laptop, connect it to your TV if iPod shuffles or nanos or whatever, if you have one of those.
We are on YouTube now. Like not now,
Yeah.
We've been on YouTube the whole time. You could watch us on a smart TV. There are all kinds of different ways. Yeah. So
just make sure you touch grass before and after you watch us and listen to us. That's all we ask.
Oh man, yeah. I should probably do that more. I definitely don't touch grass nearly enough in my day-to-day life. Anyway, we really enjoy interacting with you guys, so always feel free to hit us up and interact with us. It really helps this whole channel and community kind of grow. So definitely hit us up. We love talking, but that is it for today. So until hopefully the first week in November, we'll catch you guys in the comments.